and welcome back to my channel. Nikki Bella and Artem are going at it in the court of law, with Nikki requesting and being granted a restraining order against her estranged husband. Remember, he was accused of battering her a couple months ago in Napa, where they live in California. He was arrested for it, but ultimately the prosecutor decided to not press charges on him, and all charges were ultimately dismissed, despite his mugshot and everything being put out there. I personally thought that this was going to be the end of it, although I did suspect that, there was a lot more to the story that meets the eye. I felt as though Nikki was not cooperating with the investigation. In fact, she wasn't even the one who called the authorities to the scene. It was Artem who called the authorities, claiming that Nikki threw a shoe at him and he needed medical attention. But when the ambulance and the police got there, they took a look at Nikki, they took a look at Artem and said, you're getting arrested, sir. And the story kind of unfolded from there. And, when the prosecutor declined to press charges, it stuck out to me that, perhaps Nikki did not want for Artem to go to jail despite this major incident. Now, that brings me to today's story, courtesy of our friends over at TMC. They had a copy of Nikki's request for a restraining order against Artem. And she says that the incident that led to the ambulance and the police being called to the home was not even the first time that he was allegedly, VIOL-ent with her. She describes another instance of this in her filing. So I definitely want to go ahead and read that with you. Afterwards, I do want to let you guys know as well that Artem has clapped back with photos to support his side of events. He says, no, Nikki, you are lying about what happened, and you got a restraining order against me on false pretenses. It is an awful lot to unpack, you guys, so buckle up because we are about to get into it. Let's start off with Nikki's restraining order request, shall we? In her petition, she claims that Artem attacked her multiple times and pinned her to the ground while their child, Mateo, was present. She also says that because ever since Artem was cut from Dancing with the Stars, he grew, quote, increasingly angry, snapping at me and yelling. According to Nikki, they also had discussions about how he needed to control his anger. And then she says that on the morning of the incident, Artem went off on her over how their 4-year-old son's English muffin should be toasted, screaming that Nicole made their son a picky eater. Nikki says that she was overwhelmed by Artem's yelling, so overwhelmed, in fact, that she threw Mateo's toddler size 7 shoes toward Artem. She says that the shoes hit his legs, but they were so light they couldn't have hurt him. And then she says that at this point, Artem grabbed Mateo and ran with him upstairs as the boy screamed, "Mommy, mommy," which, obviously must have been rather traumatizing for the child. Witnessing his mom throwing a shoe at his dad, then his dad picking him up and, dramatically, running away. Both of them behaved in a way that was unbecoming of them, especially when you factor in, the fact that their child was present, right? So this is not to defend either of them. I do believe that they were both wrong in this situation. And to think that all of this, fighting and stuff came to a head, I can't say it was all because of. It came to a head over the fact that Artem felt as though Nikki made their child into a picky eater. Artem, kids are picky eaters. It's just what they are. They don't have the same developed flavor palettes that we do as adults. I imagine you probably went through a picky eater phase. I know I sure as hell went through a picky eater phase. So the idea that you would go screaming about this is just wild. And when it comes to the shoe thing, it's interesting to see Nikki Bella confirming the reports about the shoe. Right. And so for her to now go on the record and say, it wasn't a shoe like you think. It wasn't like my big old shoe. Right. I was picturing stiletto heels. Like, why would a man call the cops over you, or it's not even the cops, but the ambulance over you throwing shoes if they weren't stiletto heels or like steel toe construction worker boots or something like that? But to hear that they were children's shoes, which are probably like this size, very weird. Very, very, very weird, And again, to think that this man would not have had this mugshot if he didn't go and call the cops over some toddler-sized shoes. Or not even the cops. He called the ambulance, but the cops came as well. And then they said, you know what? I know you're the one who called for reinforcement, but let's take a look at your wife, and she looks worse for wear. So we're going to have to go ahead and arrest you, which is why, I am more inclined to believe Nikki's version of events. Not only that, but other people who have competed on Dancing with the Stars with him as a partner have said that he has an extreme anger issue. So that to me also adds on to why I'm kind of leaning more towards what it is that Nikki Bella is saying. But let's continue on with what she's alleging went down in her request for a restraining order against her estranged husband. Nikki Bella says that Artem then went into Mateo's room and closed the door. She says she tried to push open the door and he opened it, pushed her across the hall into the couple's bedroom, forcing her to the floor in their bathroom. She says he had his hands on her chest near her sternum. And let me take this off so I can show you what the sternum is, because, I will admit, I am not afraid to admit that I had to Google what a sternum was. It's this area, the up and down in the middle of your chest or your breastplate. That's the area that she says that he was holding her, squeezing her down by. And she said that she felt like she was suffocating. She couldn't breathe when he applied so much pressure there. She also says that she grabbed his neck in an attempt to get him off of her. The police came, and Nikki is alleging that her son told the police, "Daddy hurt my hand." Again, I believe her on this because she is filing a restraining order with law enforcement. Law enforcement can go and corroborate what she is or is not saying. So if she's saying that their son said that daddy hurt his hand, I believe that the son said that daddy hurt his hand. Okay, I just want to make that clear, you guys. She's also alleging that Artem was physically violent on one prior occasion. According to Nikki Bella, in mid-2023, Artem, quote, violently grabbed me around my waist to keep me away from Mateo. She also says that there were numerous instances of verbal abuse. She says that she doesn't want her son to grow up in a tumultuous environment the same way that she did. And she wants Artem to get the help he needs with therapy and anger management, and for her and Mateo to have enough space away from him until he has bettered himself. So she is seeking to have primary custody of the child for the time being, while Artem works on his alleged anger issues. Listen, if what she's saying is true, then I completely understand why she's doing what she's doing, especially with the way that this man called the ambulance over some toddler shoes, acting like she threw like some 20-inch stilettos at his face or something like that, trying to get her in trouble or frame her or whatever you want to say, and again, that's only if this version of events is true. I do want to remind you that Artem has gone on the record to share his own version of events, which we definitely will be getting to in this stream. So if you haven't already, do make sure to subscribe to my channel for more updates on the story. I feel like it's kind of missing from the media front, so I definitely want to continue covering it for you guys. I do have some prior videos as well that you can check out in the archives, but if you want to make sure that you're up to date on this story, make sure to subscribe to my channel, that's for sure. Now, the judge, let's talk about what the judge wound up ruling when it comes to the restraining order. The judge said, okay, well, as of now, Artem is prohibited from contacting Nikki Bella or coming within 100 yards of her or their son or their home. The only exception is for visitation or exchange of the child per court-ordered visit. So as of right now, Artem still does have the right to visit their son. Like, that's not something that was taken away with the restraining order. It's just that he can't be near her, while she's with the son. So now they're going to have intermediaries handing the son off between the two of them, which is in stark contrast to the way that we saw the exchanges going down. A couple of weeks ago, we saw Nikki and Artem and Mateo all pretty much together in the front of the house, while Artem came to have visitation or to drop Mateo off. That's no longer going to be happening, okay? Nikki also asked the judge if she could leave the country with their son. She's got something that she needs to film in London, England. And the judge said that he was going to deny that request until they could hold a full hearing on October 21st. Today is Friday, October 24th. So the 21st will be here before we know it. Okay, you guys? So like I said, make sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on an update about that. I've got that marked on my calendar to stay on top of the story. So I'm sure we're all aware at this point that Artem has not been living in the family home ever since the incident. And the judge said, okay, although he can stay out, right? He's not allowed anywhere near Nicole. And we know that that's Nicole's home base and she has not left. The judge is still not going to hand a move out order until that hearing that is to take place on the 21st of October. As you guys are aware, Nikki did file for divorce after all the altercation happened, all the news broke and everything like that. So that is something that we're still going to be following. I believe Artem is asking her for spousal support. I know that Nikki does not want any spousal support and she doesn't want to give any spousal support. So that's going to be something that is quite wild to watch play out. You know, it's very, very ugly in my opinion for someone to do the things that Nikki is alleging that Artem did, then to turn around and ask you to pay them for, you know, for the right to leave them. Like, that's wild to me. Now, Nikki's reps have issued a statement to TMZ that I would like to read to you guys. Okay, so let me just put this photo up as I read their statement. They said, and I quote, "Due to the incident that led to Artem's arrest on August 29th, 2024, Nikki has decided to file for a temporary DV restraining order to protect herself and her son. Although Nikki requested that the Napa district attorney not file charges against Artem, as she did not want him to go to jail, he must still be held accountable for his actions, and Nikki and her son must be protected. Nikki's #1 priority has always been the well-being of her son. She is thankful for all of the love and support she has received and continues to ask for privacy for her and her family during this difficult time." So there she goes, confirming exactly what it is that I have been saying. Nikki does not want Artem to go to jail. Nikki just wants for Artem to face consequences for what it is that he did. Right? If she wanted him to go to jail, the charges would not have been dropped. She refused to cooperate with the investigation, which I do find to be rather unfortunate, though I do understand that she is stuck in a pickle because she does share a child with Artem and like she doesn't want, you know, her son's father to go to jail and everything like that. But it's very, you know, does he deserve to go to jail? If he's doing everything that she says, then maybe, you know what I mean? So it sucks and it's hard and it's a very, very difficult place to find yourself in. So I empathize with Nikki in the full, in all full capacity, you know? So that's what I said in that video when I said, when the charges were dropped, I said, this doesn't mean that he didn't do it. Like, this most likely just means that Nikki is not willing to cooperate. And I think that she low-key confirmed that with that statement. Now, let's get into Artem's response, okay? So Nikki Bella's estranged husband, Artem, fired back against her DV restraining order, and he even added some photos of some injuries or alleged injuries that he claims he sustained at the hands of Nikki Bella. So let me share my screen with you guys here so that we can go over them together, because there are quite a few photos and, you know, it's easier shown than described, right? Here he goes. He says, Nikki's the aggressor and she lied about everything. So there you go, a little marking on his elbow. Let me just start this off by showing that. So here we go. Sorry, guys. So you see some bruising, scraping on his elbow here. And let's get into what he's saying. In new legal documents obtained by TMZ, Artem painted the retired WWE star as the aggressor with anger issues that led to his arrest in late August, ultimately destroying their 2-year marriage. So these are some more markings that he wants to show us. Here's the thing, though. Nikki did say that she fought back when he allegedly got on top of her and pushed down on her sternum. She said that she had her hand on his neck to try to get him off of her. So I feel like that could be a defensive wound. And here's my thing, and this to me is kind of nothing, right? It's a nothing burger to me. And I say this because police were on the scene, okay? These are healed over injuries. So they were even worse when the police were on the scene because they were fresh. So he gave his side of events. Nikki gave her side of events. He showed his injuries. Nikki showed her injuries. Yet he was the one who wound up with the mugshot. He was the one who wound up arrested. That leads me to believe that these are defensive marks that he is now trying to pass off as offensive marks. The police have a lot of experience dealing with these sorts of things. They know the difference between like a defensive scratch, like, trying to protect yourself, and a scratch of you trying to be an aggressor. So that's why I don't believe the narrative that Artem is peddling personally. Okay. One thing that I do find interesting is that we're seeing photos of his injuries being released, but not of Nikki's. You would think that Nikki included photos in her restraining order filing and that those would have been released as well. Listen, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe, in response to this, if she hasn't already, she will release her own. But I have a feeling that they are 10 times worse than this, because if they weren't, she would have been the one who was arrested. Okay. Now, let's get into some more of what Artem had to say here. Artem says he was cooking breakfast for their son, Mateo, in their Napa County, California home. He says that Nikki was also present, stressing over what to wear to an upcoming Netflix event. Then he also says that Nikki started arguing with him over his failure to adequately toast the bread. So apparently the son likes his toast toasted in a specific way, or was it an English muffin actually? And Artem failed to toast that English muffin properly. Then it led to this huge fight. He says that their dispute escalated after Nikki chastised him for placing 2 food options, a quesadilla and chicken tenders, in Mateo's lunchbox. Artem says he left the kitchen, went into the living room, helped Mateo get ready for school. Nikki allegedly came into the room and yelled at Artem, saying he couldn't even put Mateo's shoes on properly. All right, so this is where the shoes come into play. I'm looking at how small his feet are. Like this. All right. Artem says he defended himself, which only made Nikki angrier, prompting her to throw the sneakers at him and strike him in the chest. So these little sneakers of this baby's foot hit you in the chest, and you called the ambulance over it. That's very odd to me. Am I saying it's right what Nikki did? If she was screaming at him, like, that's not right, especially not in the presence of the child. Was it right to follow him to the other room to continue to scream at him in the presence of the child, especially? No, no, no. Then the shoe. Was it all right to throw the shoe at him? No. But why call the ambulance? I mean, if you want to report her for getting physical with you, call the cops. But the ambulance over this little thing? That's very odd to me. But listen, maybe he was in a panic and that's why he asked for that. I really don't know. And then he says that after she threw the shoe, Nikki screamed about getting a divorce, and Mateo just stood there frightened and confused. Artem says he pleaded with Nikki to calm down and then brought Mateo upstairs to his room to protect him from the escalating situation. Then he says that Nikki followed them to the bedroom and tried to force open the door while he held it close with Mateo crying next to him. During their struggle, Artem says he squeezed through an opening in the door to push his way out of the room so Mateo wouldn't be exposed to their fight. According to Artem, that's when Nikki shoved her way inside the room and physically attacked him. Artem says he attempted to fend off Nikki as the two ended up grappling on the floor. So it sounds like he's got a line-by-line rebuttal for everything it is that she claimed went down that fateful day. She talked about him, going upstairs with the child. She says that he grabbed the child and kind of hoisted him up, in a way that led to the child panicking and everything like that. He's saying that it happened rather calmly, which, is a complete juxtaposition there, right? And then he's also saying that he was trying to squeeze out to leave the son in there so he can go out there and confront Nikki away from the son. Nikki saying that he whipped her across, 2 rooms and stuff like that, So it is, quite wild to see these two stories differing yet complementing each other so much, right? And then he says he broke free and called 911 from his cell phone, telling the dispatcher what happened as Nikki shouted threats in the background. This, I wonder, I can believe him because he's filing, again, a legal document in the court of law, which means that this is something that there should be a record of. The 911 calls are recorded. So if Nikki is in the background of that 911 call, yelling, swearing, threatening him, that is something that is going to be revealed, okay? And then he also says that Nikki at some point said, do you understand here this is going to go now, Artem. You just ruined my career and you know it. Oof. However, in Nikki's version of events, in her restraining order after the breakfast disagreement and shoe-throwing incident, she claims she tried to get into Mateo's room. And Artem opened the door and tackled her to the ground outside of Mateo's room. So there you go, you guys. He does his own kind of little play-by-play, and it's hard. I feel like the truth lies somewhere in the middle. There's some things about Nicole's account that I believe more, and there's some things about Artem's account that I believe more as well. Now, let me see what else TMZ has to say about this. The cops did arrive on the scene. Artem gave his account. Nikki provided her story, and then he says that everything that Nikki says was a pack of lies to get him arrested for DV. Artem was then carted off to jail to pose for a mugshot, which is the mugshot we see up here. Now, TMZ is pointing out, okay, well, if the police had observed injuries to Artem when they arrived at the house, standard procedure would have been to arrest Nikki for DV, but that didn't happen, okay? So, I don't know. I do not know, you guys. I really don't. Artem also sought a temporary restraining order against Nikki, and the judge signed off on it. So now they both have restraining orders against each other, you guys. Christmas, Thanksgiving, all of that is going to be very, very awkward for these two people. And it's very unfortunate. You know, they only just got married, you know. Their kid's only like 2 years old or something like that. And all of this is already happening. You know, it's just very, very, very sad to see this happen. You know, I'm really sorry that this is happening for the two of them and for their son as well. I'm going to continue to follow the story and provide you guys all the details that I receive. Okay, you guys? In the meantime, let me know how you feel about these differing requests for DV restraining orders. Like, whose version of events are you believing more? Let me know in the comment section down below. And as usual, we'll chat. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.